and fly away with me. Come and fly away with me. Come and fly away with me. Come and fly
Hi,
away
I'm
with
Laura,
me.
And I'm Jessica,
Come and fly
and welcome
away
to No
with
Man,
me.
Nomads.
Come and fly
a
away
podcast
with
about
me.
international teaching, travel, and life.
We met in undergrad in Minnesota during the music education program. I just finished my third year of teaching overall and my second year international. I was teaching band and general music in Turkmenistan, which is a country in Central Asia. This fall, I'll be in Shenzhen, China, teaching general music from fourth grade to eighth grade.
And I just finished my third full year teaching also in Central Asia in Almaty, Kazakhstan. And I taught choir, general music, and drama. But before that, I also had just a half year teaching general music in Minnesota. And then next year, I'll be teaching middle school and high school music for general music, instrumental, and choral music in Panama City, Panama.
Great. So last time we ended up talking about like our interview process at the job fair in Iowa and like our how we got started with like even being interested in international teaching. So we talked about how Jessica got a job. We didn't really talk about how I got a job because I didn't get a job at that fair. So we thought
Right.
this would be a good place to start the next podcast where I just talk about my whole journey because I took a bit of a different path.
Right. I also wanted to know, we had a suggestion from one of our friends that we give a little bit more information about us and like where we are and stuff. So that's why our little intro was longer today. Hopefully it gives you guys a better idea right off the bat.
Yeah. So now you kind of know a little bit of what I'm going to talk about. But basically, so I didn't get,
Spoilers.
yeah. So I didn't get a job at that job fair. We didn't just skip half of the story. But it was great. Like I learned a lot, like I said, about my resume and like getting interviews and just it was good to throw myself in that with basically no training. Because then after that, I went to Costa Rica and did my student teaching there, finished everything up in Minnesota, got licensed, blah, blah, blah. And then I started doing interviews in Minnesota, which was a whirlwind because I think the job market here, as anyone who has tried to get a teaching job here, is like super competitive. And also the music community is super competitive in Minnesota. So it was hard for me to even get any interviews. And that's kind of when I started looking into other states. And I figured if I want to do this international thing, it might not happen right away. Like it probably wouldn't happen that first year since I had already gone to one of the later job fairs and didn't get anything. So I thought, well, why don't I just look at other states and that will be different and maybe I'll just like that and do that instead of like international teaching. So I
I have a
just thought,
question.
yeah, go ahead.
Like when you say you were looking for jobs and stuff like here and
Yeah.
other states, do you remember like where you were looking like specifically, or you just kind of like searched online?
So basically I started out just like looking to see what was there, and my mentor teacher at the Minnesota student teaching school that I was at, he told me about the St. Cloud State job posting thing where
Hmm.
basically all the jobs in the state are posted there, and possibly some other states too, for like everything for music and even other subjects. So that was like the number one place that I looked. And I looked at some other like K-12 job spot and some other online like databases that are specifically for teaching, which I would highly recommend because if you're just looking on like Monster or something, like it's just going to be a lot more to weed through things that
Yeah.
aren't time and stuff. So I started looking at that, and then everyone else thought they should give me their opinion about like where I should teach, where I should interview. So I didn't really know what I wanted, so I like just took everyone's advice basically and tried. I did a couple interviews like in suburbs of the cities, I don't even remember where. One of them was like a really specific charter school. I think it was like largely Hmong population.
Okay.
And that was a really bad interview for me. I don't remember a lot about it, but I was like, that was one point where I was like, I'm not going to get a job in this state. And it's like, every day that passes, especially when you graduate in May and then you want to find a job before August, I'm just like, this sucks. Like, I want to find something really soon. So,
Yeah, I think in retrospect, you probably could have started interviewing earlier too.
and I could
Like,
have
yeah,
like kept going. Like, some people don't get hired until August, and that's
yeah,
okay. Obviously,
yeah.
it's scary, but everyone is in a different boat. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Right.
So then I just started looking at other states. I think actually my dad was the one to be like, why don't you think about states that you'd actually be excited to move to and live in, and not just like it's a job, so you're moving there. So I
Yeah.
just thought about like different climates that I'm not used to or I haven't been to. I hadn't been to Arizona before. I looked in California, but that was a whole other thing. Um, I looked mainly like West Coast and southern-ish states. I didn't want to look anywhere that was close to where I had been, because I feel like Minnesota is one of the better states for jobs like that. And if I wasn't going to get one there, then might as well
Right. In the
open up the whole
Midwest.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when I ended up getting an interview for Arizona. It's like basically in a valley right outside of Tucson. So the superintendent, video called me, and I don't remember why. I think I was like in between apartments or something, but I actually went to campus in the PA in like a random abandoned classroom, and I had like all my like interview clothes on and stuff, and I just like FaceTimed her in there, and it was kind of weird, but
Yeah.
it was just weird because I was like, I'm sitting in this empty classroom. And that was one of the interviews where I was like, I know I'm gonna get this offer, because we just like vibed right away. We were talking, like we were on the same page about stuff, and
Yeah.
I knew exactly what I wanted to say for all of the questions that she asked, because I had prepped it a little bit. So I felt good about that. She offered me the job and sent me the package. Like, in most states, I think you don't just get like a base salary, especially for specialists. You get like your base salary and then stipends for different things that you'll be asked to do. So like I had,
Well, in the States at least. I mean, well, it depends international too, but
yeah, I guess.
because I didn't get stipends for some of the things I did at my first international job.
Yeah, I think that's actually only in the States. I don't know if you've seen other packages in other
I
states.
think I think I get stipends if I help with some of the things this coming year, but
Okay.
it depends. I think more like internationally, like on what school. But I feel like most schools in the States, you do get stipends, like if
Yeah.
you coach too
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. But there was stuff already worked into that position, which is weird that they itemized it like that, I guess. But they were like, basically, you have to do these things, but we're telling you that you're getting extra money for it. So it ended up
Yeah.
being like a bigger bottom line.
Hmm.
So yeah, then I just like talked to a bunch of people to decide if I wanted to do it. And I remember asking for an extension to decide. Like, I asked for the weekend, and she was kind of like, I think she didn't, I don't know why. I was like, a young student, and I'm like, this is a big decision. And she was like, do you want a job? Like, I should have just made the decision quicker, but I went.
No, I think it's okay to ask for more time. And
Yeah, and she
like
was
there
okay
have
with
been
it.
several jobs I've been offered where they have no problem giving you a couple extra days if you just like tell them, and don't be afraid to like ask more questions
Yeah.
after you get offered a
Yeah,
job
I
and
did too.
after the interview too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually I decided, this is like a weird story, but I decided that I actually wanted to take it because I went to a bar with one of my really good friends, and I was just like stressed out and nervous about like everything. And she's like, "Oh, you should like just do it. Who even cares? Just like do it for a year, and then if you hate it, you can move or whatever." And then
Mm-hmm.
one of her friends, who I didn't really know at all, I don't know why I listen to people that I don't know, was like, "You have to do this. Like, you're young, you have no reason not to. You're not dating anyone. You have money to move down there. Like, you know, you're not wildly in debt or anything. Like, literally just do it. It's going to be awesome." So then I just decided to do it, and I emailed her the next day, and yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So that's how I got that job. And then should I talk about then like the next job or?
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay. So, I mean, there might be other things that come up about my job in Arizona, but since this is like supposed to be more about international teaching, I'm not going to go into a lot of stuff about Arizona because basically, I in the beginning it was a lot just because it was my first year of teaching, and I
Yeah.
didn't know if I didn't like the job or the place that I was living or the city. Like there were so many factors. I'm like, I don't know if I like this or not. And it took
Right.
a really long time. Like I think I just started warming up to everything and feeling like I was kind of settled in like December. But that was when I saw a posting for another international job.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say we definitely could eventually talk about our stateside jobs because
yeah,
I only have like half a year, but I still have lots to talk about with
there's
that one.
plenty of stories. Yeah.
I sure do, yeah.
Yeah. So backing up, so I like took that job for Arizona in like May or maybe June, which I thought was late, but it actually wasn't. And then I think you had maybe told me that I should do this interview with the teaching company that you got hired with. And
Yeah.
like even though I
Well,
already
or
had a job,
just yeah, just because online they like we're starting to post because international jobs they at least the company we're at, but a lot of companies you need to tell them in like November, October, December, like if
yeah,
you're gonna be there the following year. So I had told her to just, if she was interested, maybe check our company online
yeah,
what they had, and
yeah.
yeah,
And that's a good point because when you get an international job, you've like barely settled in, barely started your classroom, and they're like, "So you love it? You want to stay for another year?" I'm like, I don't even know like how to say where
right,
we live in the language that we're speaking.
yeah. I think this past year our deadline was so early. I had
Yeah,
to tell them like October 1st
yeah,
if I wanted to like stay or transfer in a company or leave. Like it was so early. It's like a month into teaching.
yeah. Crazy. I mean, it gets easier the longer that you're at a place because you'll start thinking
Right,
like years ahead, like, okay, this is gonna be my last year.
right.
Anyway, so I went online and set up an interview with someone who's like basically a scout. So this company and probably other companies have scouts in different regions of the company. So their only job is to just keep interviewing people, even if there's no positions, just to kind of keep them on hold. So when there is a position, they can hire someone a lot quicker.
Yeah, and then these people are usually the people that go to the job fairs in the States too. Their
Right.
like whole job is just interviewing people.
Yeah. So this guy was actually like a retired, I mean, he's not retired because he was working, but he used to be a director. He actually used to be a director at the school that you got hired at.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
kind of
He
funny.
was the director from the school I
Yeah.
taught at. Yep.
So then we just like met up at a random Caribou Coffee that was like the halfway point for us. And it was kind of weird at first, but it was a similar thing to the Arizona interview that like I had what I thought was a good answer for most of his questions, and he just kept saying stuff like, that's exactly what we believe in, like our school has like similar morals and similar philosophies. So he really wanted to hire me, but he didn't have any music jobs at that time. So
Yeah.
basically said, I'll let you know if anything comes up, because like teachers have to decide quickly if they want to leave or not. So yeah, so I did that.
I thought that you had actually even talked to him in the summer, because I remember like you saying he was wanting to offer you the job that I had already like signed or something.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm making this up, but I thought you were even talking to him like before you even got to Arizona.
It was. That's when I met up with him, because I drove there from like Rochester or something. But
Oh,
okay, so
okay.
maybe it was like late July, because I think I left for Arizona in August.
Yeah, because I think I remember you being like, well, he said there's a job in Kazakhstan. I'm like, that's my job. I already
Yeah.
signed the contract.
Yeah. Yeah, because
But
I even thought
yeah.
it was the same guy that interviewed you. So I don't know why he was
I
saying
don't think
that
it's
I
the
met.
same guy. It was a different guy, but yeah.
Yeah.
The one that interviewed me, I think, was in Astana, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
So anyway, I had this interview, and basically the way that he explained it was like, we want to hire you. We're just basically waiting until a position comes up, and then there will probably be some other kind of interview for you to decide if you want that position. That was how I thought it was anyway. So then fast forward to like December, and I was basically stalking the company website to see if there were any positions, because I wasn't really feeling that great about the Arizona job. I think just because I like didn't know anything.
Well, and like by the time, I mean, just with international too, when you get to like Thanksgiving-ish,
Yeah.
is when you are finally like, oh, like starting to get homesick and stuff, because
Yeah.
the excitement of something new is like
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like, it was a really good precursor to moving overseas, because I had kind of already done some of that stuff. Like, I wasn't 14 hours away. I was like 3 hours away, but I still wasn't like anywhere close to my family. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then I went on the company website, and I saw that there was a position for Turkmenistan. I think it even said band. And I was like, holy crap, that's what I want. I want to teach band overseas. I don't know where this country is, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I emailed the guy who had hired me, or like whatever, had interviewed me before. And I'm like, hey, I just saw this post. Like, you said you were going to let me know, but I just saw it. I don't know, whatever. Like, can I have this job, basically? And he's like, oh my gosh, yeah, let me like email a bunch of other people and like connect you with the right person. And I think I was doing other international interviews at that time, because I think, okay, this is weird, but I remember doing the interview in my office in Arizona at like 4 or 5 in the morning, because I was supposed to have an
Oh my
interview
gosh.
with Egypt. And so it was a school day. So I got up at 4 to interview with Egypt, because that was the time that worked for them. And they didn't call, and they were like, oops, we got our like times messed up. And I was so
Oh
upset.
no.
And then so I was sitting there like, I'm not going to go back to sleep. So then I checked my email, and that guy had just replied back, hey, the director of that school can call you in 45 minutes. I'm like,
Wow.
I'm awake and like in interview clothes and just like prepared for an interview. So then I'm like, yeah, that's actually perfect. Let's do that. So then the director FaceTimed me like from his room, his personal apartment. And he was just like chilling out, super cool. Like, hey, so you wanted this job, and like he didn't. It was so weird, because he didn't like really ask me that many questions, because he knew I'd already kind of been vetted by the other guy.
Right.
He was like, so what questions do you have? That was how he started the interview. I'm like, you didn't tell me anything. I don't know what this job is. Like, so just like tell me like what I would be doing. What would like a typical day be, or whatever.
Yeah.
He talked to me a little bit about how they really want a band. they have like kind of a music program, but it doesn't really get accepted well by older kids. So they wanted to try band and see if that would get kids more interested, and like maybe it could turn into an after school thing or something. So yeah, so actually also in the interview, this is one of my favorite stories. He was like, so we want to start a band, so you know, whether you decide to take this job or not, we need to purchase instruments for the band. So what instruments should we purchase? And like, could you give me like a rough estimate of like the number of instruments that we should purchase? So I haven't even taken this job. He hasn't even offered it to me, but he's like, so we're getting instruments for you. What do you want? So I rattled off
Yeah.
like flute, clarinet, all this stuff. And he's like, great.
Mhm.
So we're going to do that. And then just like, let me know if you want the job. I'm like, okay, this is a little unorthodox in my book. But
Yeah.
yeah, then I think they somehow like officially sent me the offer, and I talked to a bunch of people to get their
Yeah,
opinion.
I think you called like me. Maybe it was even the same day or something, because I was like out to eat with like Sherry,
Okay.
who later also ended up with you in Turkmenistan, but in Almaty, I'm
Yeah.
out with Sherry and one of our other friends. And I remember Sherry, like her favorite saying is always like, go for a day, go for a week, go for a
Yep.
month, go for a year, just
Yep.
go.
Yep.
Like,
I think I called you guys too, because I remember
yeah, you did.
like talking to her about if I should take the job, and she said that
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you called us and we were like out to dinner and
Yeah.
yeah.
So that
Sherry
was
giving
exciting.
advice.
Yeah. I think so. We'll maybe on another podcast, this might fit, but like a lot of people ask what my parents thought of the job offer and
I
stuff.
think we should bring our parents on a podcast,
Yeah.
or like one of each of our parents. Like, I
Okay.
think it would be good.
Yeah. But basically, I mean, they let me make the decision because I'm an adult, and they were like obviously a little apprehensive because I'm moving across the world, but supportive ultimately, and they still are excited that I have this kind of job. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
so then I took the job. And another funny story is so backstory into the Arizona job. The kids really wanted band, not just the admin. Like everyone in the community loved band. They just couldn't get a teacher to stay for a lot of reasons. But it was a hard position, and I think it was good to get someone who didn't have a lot of other ties that could just kind of dedicate themselves to building up the program again. So the kids
Yeah.
were excited to have another teacher, excited that I stayed longer than most other teachers who would last like a couple weeks to a couple months.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So then they were like, some of them were like really just nervous. Like they didn't want to trust me because they thought I was just going to leave. And so
Yeah.
I said, guys, like I'm starting to enjoy this job a lot more. But my dream is to teach internationally. So the only reason that I would leave is if I got something like that. Like I want to stay for at least a couple more years. Then I was just like really honest with them, even though they were like 13 or 14, like didn't really expect them to understand. But they were like,
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds like a fair deal. So then I, said the one thing that was probably not going to happen happened. And the kids were super upset. And I was upset too, because I was starting to like the kids more and warm up to
Right.
everything. But I'm like, I want to do this, and I want to explain everything to you guys because I want you to follow your dreams, even if they seem hard. And that's what I'm doing. So even though it's hard for all of us, like I want you to learn something from it. So that's what ended up happening there.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Then you moved to Turkmenistan.
Yeah.
And I still rocked it out in Almaty for
You did.
2 more years after that first year. I think like the next thing that we are going to kind of talk about is like once you have an international job, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're overseas now, like how to get your next job, because it's different than how we both got our first and your
Right.
second job. So I guess the biggest thing for like international jobs, and even if you're in the States, there are a couple of websites that have specifically just international teaching jobs. And a couple of them also host a lot of international job fairs. So you could go to a job fair overseas, and they do some in the US too. But the big ones, the biggest two are Search Associate and ISS. And then there's also Thai Online, but I feel like they have less and sometimes um, more like local schools that have English emphasis and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And there will definitely be like overlap between the three, but Search Associates and ISS, I think, would be the best. They have subscription fees, but with it, you have access to like all of these jobs, and um, you can go to one of their fairs usually for free, the admission fee of it, and you get, at least for Search, you get a representative that can kind of like help answer your questions and help out with that.
Yeah.
um should I just blab more, or you can talk about some other ways, because like
Sure.
just briefly about our company, I guess, and how
Sure, yeah.
that works.
Yeah. So, and one thing I was going to add to what you were saying is, so basically the core three that we both considered and I think are pretty well known. So Thai, ISS, and Search.
Hmm.
They vary pretty wildly in price, but I think that that is also very representative of the choices and the resources that you get. So
Right.
I tried for so long to just find something without paying for Search because it's the most expensive one. But then time kept passing and I'm like not getting anything. So I ended up forking it over and, I ended up getting a job a different way. But I think if you can afford it, just go right ahead and do Search because it has the best number. And a lot of the jobs that are posted other places are also posted there.
Yeah, and then like I said, they have, I think, I don't think Thai even does fairs, but I think
Right.
of ISS and Search, I think Search has more job fairs. And
Yeah.
like this past year, and I think now just usually too, they've been doing like online fairs too,
Yeah.
digital job fairs. So you just keep open this time to have like Zoom and other video call interviews.
Yeah. They still highly, highly, highly stress going to a fair. And
Right.
it's hard to not think that they're just marketing for their own stuff. But I agree that and my director was even saying, why would you want to hire someone over the phone when you could go in person and meet them? Because that's when you're really going to know if you want to work with them or if you want to hire them or whatever your situation is.
Right.
So in our company, and I'm assuming there are other companies like this, but maybe not, there are multiple schools in different countries or even the same country that you can
Hmm.
transfer to. So instead of getting out your application, resume, and all that stuff again, you can basically bypass all of that and just put in some information reiterate that you are a single teacher, married teacher, whatever, and what kind of job you're looking for. You can put in,
And yeah, I was going to say, and location
yeah,
preference, though sometimes it's just what is available
yeah.
that year.
You can put in a preference, but similar to that first job fair that we went to, you kind of need to be open to whatever, especially if you're a specialist or married and think of all the options oh, you're married with a specialist, but then you're teaching high school and you have to be certified for all the subjects that you want to teach.
Right. Well, and some of our schools specifically are pretty small, so there's
Yeah,
not as many jobs even for non-specialists at some of these schools, but some of them would hire local specialist teachers, so you might not even have an option to do it in some of the places for us in that
yeah.
particular situation.
Yeah. And so there's some pros and cons to doing a transfer like that. And one of the cons that you kind of touched on is you don't necessarily know what your job would look like in that country. They kind of just tell you like that you could be in that country. But if you're just looking online and saying, oh, I want to work in Kiev, well, there might not be a music position there available for expats or available at all, or they might not even have a music job.
Right. Or at least not this year, because it needs to be the year that someone else is leaving that you're wanting a transfer. And like I said, especially in my experience, like they kind of just offer you what they think is best and where there's availability, which sometimes, and I mean, can align, of course, with what you want.
Yeah.
But doesn't necessarily,
it doesn't really always reflect what you have asked for. But when, I mean, because that's how I ended up with the job that I have, is I started out looking all across all of these different sites, all of these different databases. I'm just like, I still want to teach music. I'm not sure if I want to stay at the company, but I want to see what's out there.
Can I jump back for a sec?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so like I was talking about earlier, how we had to let our school know, like super early, like October, November, if we wanted to stay or leave. With our particular company, the way that it worked was you had to tell them if you want to stay, if you want to transfer to another school in the company or stay at your school, if you want to transfer to another school or leave the company if you don't get a transfer you want, or if you're just like straight up leaving. So Laura and I, well, you need 2 years before you can do this, or it needs to be your second year. I had already gone through this process once before this past school year, and I think I put 3 schools in Europe. I know Ukraine was on there, and I can't really remember the other ones. Maybe I even put China. I think it was like Ukraine and China, because other than where I was, those are the 2 bigger schools, so I thought my chances were higher. Anyway, I'd gotten offered a job in Shenzhen, China, but it was just mostly elementary general music, so I ended up saying no.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to this past year, I then decided if I didn't get to go to another country, I wanted to leave. So instead of doing transfer or stay in my job, I did transfer or leave the company. And Laura, I think you straight up just put you're leaving.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
Dang
I was
it.
like, Laura just straight up said she was leaving.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it took until, like, you say this in October, but you probably won't know where they want you to be sent or what's happening until at least December. So I think it was probably like the beginning of December, and they said they were basically done with transfers, and I didn't hear anything, but I knew there were jobs in Shenzhen. So I just asked them, what are the jobs? And there was like a upper elementary, middle school general music, and then like a lower elementary general music. And I mean, I debated for a while, and I had been interviewing with other schools through mostly search associates as well. And I ended up just turning that down. But then that brings it back to Laura and she was kind of getting more worried about finding a job overseas, I think, and
it was,
or finding a job at all.
Yeah.
And so you were just kind of like, well, I know there's jobs in Shenzhen because they have been asking people to go there, and I had told you too about it. And you're like, but I just told them I was leaving. And I said, they just want someone for the job too. Like, you're helping them too. I'll let you talk about it. It's your experience.
I don't know how far back to go. I'll like try and give the full scope, but be more brief, because the whole summer I knew this was going to happen. I knew we were going to get asked, because it was my second year, like, if you're going to stay, if you're going to leave. And I had no clue what I wanted. I didn't know if I wanted to stay at the school. I didn't know if I wanted to stay with the company. I didn't even know if I wanted to stay abroad. just the experience that I had after the first year was crazy. Like for anyone, it's crazy after 1 year of completely moving everywhere. So I had no idea what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did a trip in Europe before I went back to Turkmenistan for the second year. And so I was with a friend, and we spent a lot of the trip downtime just kind of debating what I should do. And she likes traveling internationally, obviously, but she didn't have the perspective that I had. So it was good to get kind of an outsider's perspective, like what would someone who's lived in the US most of their life think. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, I just had it in my head that I was done with the school that I was at. I would have done 2 years, and that like it's time to move on. And since 2 years was the minimum for a transfer, I figured like, yeah, they'll probably give me something because I've done my time here. And later on, realized that's not always true. They can only offer you what they have and all this different stuff. So I started looking for other jobs at other companies, didn't have much luck, and I was getting more nervous that I wasn't going to have a job. I started even looking in the States, and I kind of forgot that there's like a whole bunch of stuff that you have to do that's different from international teaching, like, have a car, pay rent, things that I hadn't done in over a year. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm really ready to do all of that again.
Yeah,
Flip flop.
like a side note, most international jobs you get either a stipend or like housing paid for. And a lot of the places you go, there's ways to get around with like public transportation,
Yeah.
and they pay for your flight. So you get a lot of other benefits that you don't get if you have a job in the States.
Yeah. And I had been talking to my director a lot. Obviously, I told him that I wasn't planning to stay at that school. And he was, of course, upset because I think he liked what I'd done with the program and stuff. But also, he was just like, he wanted to help me with whatever because he's an experienced teacher who's been abroad and been with the same company for like, 20 some years. So he had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of great advice. I talked to him about going back to the States, and he said basically a couple things can happen, but you want to be really, really, really sure that that's what you want before you go, because you can't just keep flip-flopping around. And like employers aren't going to like that. You kind of need to decide what you want to do. And that just made me even more nervous because I'm like, okay, so I have to plan out the next 5 years basically in 2 weeks. So that was just super frustrating.
I mean, I think like at the end of the day, you have to do like what is right for you.
Yeah.
And I think he was probably hinting more like long term. You can't
Yeah.
like go back to the States, come overseas, go back home, come overseas, like, every other job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's definitely what he was saying, but I just didn't kind of realize that that's the point that I was at. So I just got kind of nervous, and you had told me about the positions you heard were open in China, and you said, you know what, just email them. Worst case is they don't offer them to you, and you're not going to stay with this company anyway. So
right. Well, I
what's really
said,
the harm?
or you hear them and you say, never mind, no thanks.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you might as well ask and
Yeah.
see if they're still there and
Yeah.
hear more about them.
Yeah, so I was like really nervous about that because I didn't know if they were going to look up and see that I hadn't even applied for a transfer, and now I'm asking to go like back into their company and still be kind of wish-washy. But I don't think they did any of that. They just offered me the two positions that were in China and ended up taking the one that I have now, or will have now, which is like
Right.
basically middle school general music.
Mm-hmm.
So then I could chill out for a little bit.
Yeah. I guess I can talk about my stuff um now a little bit. So I had applied, like I said, for like transfer or leave, but it was getting like late November, and I knew other people had been hearing about transfers and I didn't hear about anything. So I signed up for ISS, Search, and Thai, all three of them. Um, but did most of my like job hunting through Search Associates. And yeah, so I had been emailing schools. Some of them you can apply like straight on Search Associates, or it will like if not link you to their website. So it makes it really easy. It still takes time, of course, to do, but it puts everything in one place. So I had applied to a lot of things. I interviewed for India. I interviewed for China in Shanghai. And there's one other country. Romania, I think.
Oh yeah.
I think it was
Okay.
Romania. Anyway, so I had interviewed for those. I think I was really close to getting the India one, but they were actually at a job fair the weekend they interviewed me. So they had more options all at once.
Yeah.
I think if otherwise, I probably would have gotten that. Oh, I also interviewed for some other jobs in another job in Shanghai and Singapore. Yeah,
Hong
I
Kong
interviewed.
too, right?
I don't think I got an interview for Hong Kong,
Okay.
but I was applying to schools in Hong Kong. I knew if I wanted to be in Asia again, I wanted to be in like a more developed place. So I was trying to look at like Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Korea, Japan. I had an interview lined up for Japan, but ended up getting another job before that. Anyways, yeah, and was pretty close to getting a couple of them. I think one of them, their music teacher changed their mind and decided to stay in the Romania job. And yeah, then I interviewed for Panama. And yeah, like you said, it was kind of like her asking me what questions I have too. She did, because it was the first time with me experiencing anyone in this company. She did, of course, still like ask me some questions and stuff too. But I love when it's like a conversation and them asking like, what questions do you have? And them also trying to sell the school to me, because like I have to want to go there
Yeah.
too. It needs to be a two-way thing. And I felt really good about that. And then she had also set me up with the band director that's there, and he's going to be the chair this year of the music department. And so I got to just like talk to him like more casually and ask questions from another music teacher there. And then I had, I think, one last interview with who will be my like immediate supervisor, middle school principal. And then the initial interviewer again, who she was the head of visual performing arts at the time. So yeah, I had a lot of talking to people. And my admin was actually also super supportive and helpful in this. And she had talked on the phone with my interviewer too. And she had texted me like, expect a job interview. Or she actually just said, I think, congrats. And I'm like, I don't have a job, or I don't have a offer.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, congrats. I'm like, on what? And my cousin also too was like on vacation meeting up with one of his friends and who was like from there or knew the person who interviewed me, who also told them that I was getting the job. And I'm like, so yeah, it was a nice like Christmas surprise, because I think that by the time I got the official offer, it was like right before Christmas. And so it was just like a huge weight to have like know that I had a job before I had to go back to Kazakhstan after winter break and everything. Yeah, I guess that was kind of a roundabout way, but there's my experience with my second job. But I didn't end up having to go to a job fair in person. If I didn't get one before January, I mean, everything shut down, of course, but I was planning to try to go to one in like March or February.
We were talking about going to the Thailand one together if nothing else panned out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was thinking of going to one in Bangkok or Dubai, or over our spring break, there's one in London. So those are definitely like really good opportunities too. And I like that they have them like every month. So you can give it some time with the online stuff, but it's definitely possible to get an international job without going to a job fair. Yeah, and especially now with all of this craziness, it kind of has to be that way.
Yeah, that was another thing that you reminded me of when you were saying your experience. Like I think you had started your process earlier because you kind of knew that you weren't going to get a transfer, or you'd already done the transfer process. So you kind of knew what to expect. And
Yeah,
that's
well,
like,
I knew I either thought I wouldn't get offered something, or that, again, like we had talked about, it might not be what I want. I said, if I
yeah,
get an offer, it might not be what I want. And I already had told them, and I told my like boss that I was looking into going to some international fairs and stuff
yeah,
too. So I just think it was good to keep my options open. If I had said I was going to another school in our company or staying, it's a huge no-no to do that. But they knew
yeah,
that I was looking and I was transparent about it. Wasn't trying to keep any secrets.
yeah. But since you were getting interviews, like rightfully so, because you had been looking at stuff earlier, like I
Uh-huh.
just felt more like I wasn't going to get anything because you had a bunch of interviews and I hadn't really had any, or like I had a couple offers for places that I really did not want to go, and I
Yeah.
was like, should I
Well,
just do this interview even though I know I don't want it?
I mean, for all the interviews I did, I don't even remember, like I said, 5 or 6 schools.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, there were definitely some that I got offers for that I said no to.
yeah,
I was a little more selective this time around. But again, like if it had gotten to January, February, I would have probably started taking some more of these
yeah.
interviews for areas that I wasn't initially looking at.
Yeah. The timing is a super big thing. And that was another story that I wanted to share because I had emailed about the Shenzhen possibility to the company sometime in like the middle of the week when we were on break, I think, in like December. And
Hmm.
I still had interviews lined up. It was like the weekend that I landed in Minnesota. I had like 3 interviews, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm jet lagged. I'm supposed to be doing interviews, and now I have
Yeah.
possibly this offer for a school that I had originally written off that I didn't want to be at." But
Right.
I had an interview with this guy at a school in Kuwait, and he was so helpful, and I think like definitely he had a lot of experience with interviewing people because he was basically like, okay, we have a band, we have a lot of what you want, but he really focused it on why are you leaving your job that you are at, like what
Yeah.
more are you looking for, and I can tell you if we have that or not. And I
Yeah.
basically said, if I'm going to keep doing band, I would like to be met with a little less resistance from the students because my Arizona job, I had to sell myself and tell the kids that I wasn't going to leave, even though they wanted band. And then my second job in Turkmenistan, I had to sell band and myself to the kids and say, hi, you don't know me. You probably don't care where I'm from. And you don't even know what band culture is, but that's what I'm here for. And that's all that I'm going to do. So it was really hard
Yeah.
to just keep like telling kids how great music is. I'm like, you should just know. Why don't you understand it? So
Yeah. Well, this like this goes back to the whole, it's like a two-way thing.
yeah,
Like you have to, the school has to have what you want too.
yeah, definitely. So the guy in Kuwait was like, yeah, we have a really great band, but no, it's no kids first priority. Like, we have a big Muslim community that is focused on sports and academics first, and arts are really one of the last things. Not to say
Hmm.
that that's like a stereotype, but that was the culture of their school. So
Right.
he's like, basically, you're probably not going to find that at this school. You should look somewhere in like Southeast Asia, like maybe Korea or China or something,
Hmm.
and or just resign yourself to the fact that this is going to be your job. Maybe look at general music. Like he was helping me look at the job offers or possibilities that I already had instead of
Right.
basically interviewing me. But then I
Yeah.
was basically like, oh, it's funny that you say Southeast Asia or China because I essentially had an offer in my inbox at that time. So that was, I kind
Yeah.
of took that as a sign of like, okay, I need to do this China job and just see once and for all if that's where I want to be.
Right. Oh, I like almost forgot to. I did get another job offer for Shanghai in
Okay.
China
Oh yeah.
this time around, and I had a really hard time making this choice. I mean, of course, like it's a huge life choice, but I had found this job through Thai, I think, Thai online, and it was it's basically like, I don't want to say a local school, but
Mhm.
it's not an international school. It's like a school where most of the teachers are American English speaking.
The
And
Shanghai,
then what?
the Shanghai one, or the one where you in Panama?
Shanghai.
Okay.
Shanghai. So yeah, I had went back and forth, but the like this is what I was saying too last time. I think about like people like really help make or break it, because like the admin who would have been my boss was like so awesome, and I really 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 wanted to work for her, like because she was amazing.
Mhm.
But the contract didn't sit well with me and everything. I did actually say I would take the job, and then I changed my mind,
Mhm.
which I feel bad about, but you have to do what's right for
Yeah.
you. And I didn't want to get there and not like it. It's not good for them either.
And you had
So
so much time before that. Like they could have easily found someone else after that. It wasn't
yeah,
like they waited so
this was,
long.
by the way, this was like the beginning of November or something. It was
Yeah.
really really early. So they had plenty of time to get somebody else. So yeah, I had turned that down. And kept interviewing again because I had time. It was early.
Yeah.
I think with international jobs, like when you think you need to start, you actually should start like 2 months earlier.
Yep.
I
You
think
should. Yeah.
honestly, like you can start looking for the next school year when this school year starts.
Yep.
It's how soon
Definitely.
things are ready.
If you want to do a job fair or something, you have to start saving money for that, because the school's not going to help you get another job. They want to keep you. So you're going to have to pay for
Yeah.
that flight. You're going to probably plan it during a vacation, or maybe you get a couple days from the school off, but not for sure. And then
Mm-hmm.
your lodging, there's going to be a fee for the fare. Like
Right.
there's a lot of money stuff that I did not know I needed to plan for with.
Right. Well, and especially if you're overseas, going to another overseas fair in another country,
Yeah.
that gets to be more expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
depending. The places they have it in the States can be pretty expensive too, like if you're going to San Francisco or
New
wherever,
York. Yeah.
or New York.
Yeah. So going back to what you were saying, with like you were in between like different job offers and stuff, there, like sometimes I think people, and maybe this is more in the States, they really want to hold out for like an ultimate job or something, but you
Mm.
can't always do that. You can't even really ever do that in international.
Well, I will say some of the interviewers I had would appreciated would just like ask me, do you have any other offers right now, or do you have any
Oh yeah.
other jobs that you're expecting an offer from? And then they would try to get you answers sooner if
Yeah.
they want you, and like
Helping you out.
um yeah, with that. So I thought that that was super nice, but again, like they can't hold out forever, but don't be
Yeah.
afraid to ask for a couple more days if you need it. Or again, just be honest. Like I think with Panama, I think I had told her, I said, what's your timeline? Because I have some other like job potentials. I think it was the first part was overlapping with when I got the China transfer from our company. I was just like, I have some other potential jobs, and I really, really am interested in this job, and I really want to go here,
Mhm.
but I want to know your timeline because I need to make some other decisions.
Yeah.
So I think like don't be afraid to like let them know those things and ask for timelines, or
Yeah.
ask for a couple more days to decide.
Yeah. And you can have different philosophies when you're going into looking for a job, because when I ended up taking Arizona, my philosophy was I need to teach music as soon as possible. I don't want to get into a subbing position. I don't want to teach
Yeah.
something else. I don't want to waitress. So Arizona was the first offer that I got, and I took it. And when I was looking for Turkmenistan, I'm like, I need to get out of the US. I want to be somewhere else. And
Yeah.
this is banned. So why not take it? I didn't hold out for anything else. But for
Yeah.
China, I thought that I could really like, oh, I prefer this and this, but it ended up being kind of the same thing. Like when it's all said and done, you need a job. And if it's remotely close to what you were looking for, or like if you can see yourself being happy there, you should consider taking it.
Right. I would say like don't rule anything out, but your wants and your like needs definitely transform over the years.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like we've already been talking for like 50 minutes, so I'm just looking at the clock.
Yeah.
So I should probably wrap this one up.
Yes. But if you guys
Yeah.
have more questions
Any
about
final
interviews,
remarks, Laura?
oh, well, no. I
No.
it is what it is. I took the first 2 job offers that I got. And don't be ashamed to be that person. If you want that job, just like take it. And if you're not sure, then hold off. There's not really a right or wrong way to do it.
Right. Well, like Kazakhstan was the first job I got offered at a job fair. I actually technically got offered an English teaching job in China before that fair too.
Yeah.
But again, like I took the first like music international job I got offered, and I loved being there for 3 years. It doesn't matter like if it's the first or the fifth. If you know you're gonna be happy there, or you think this is the right choice, then do it.
Yep. And things change so much. Like if you're considering leaving an international job because of a couple of coworkers that you don't like, everything's gonna change. Those people might leave or get fired or have a baby. Like everything changes so quickly. Like the admin for my current school that I'm going to has already changed twice over the summer. And like obviously that's due to COVID and stuff. But you just never know. So just make the decision that's right for yourself.
Right. Cool. I didn't mean to cut Laura off. I think there was kind of like a little bit of a lag or whatever. But I don't really have any other like final things on that. But if you guys have any questions specifically about this or really anything else, I think we're looking to maybe add a little like Q&A type thing to a relatively upcoming podcast. So please let us know like on the YouTube comments, or if you're friends with us, like send it to us on like text or Facebook.
Or Instagram.
Or we have our Instagram too, which if you're on YouTube, I'll put up the thing there now. But I guess we should say it out loud, because if you're listening on SoundCloud, I think it's just like at Nomads podcast.
Yeah.
So it's just our name on Instagram. And
yeah, we're trying to get a little bit more organized. We had like a couple of bullet points and like our intros and stuff. But if we miss anything, or you thought we missed anything, or you know a story that we've told you that you think we should like share, go ahead.
Or just general podcast suggestions for like formatting or anything too.
Yeah, especially if you're a person that listens to a lot of podcasts, because I think both of us are, but it's hard to like zoom out and get perspective when you're like doing it. So.
Right. And we just get tangented because this is our life and it's exciting to us to like talk to each other. So
yeah.
All right. Anyway, I think we better wrap it up.
Yep. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.